Ladies and gentlemen, I'm tired of not seeing enough talk about the Last Breath auto rifle for Season of the Lost. It's very rare that I take a step back and create a video on one weapon in particular, but today we make the exception. Now, this is my second full-on PvE weapon review this season, the last one being about stochastic variable, except in this case, unlike stochastic, this weapon far exceeds the boundaries of just being a great ad melter in regular content. We're looking at a weapon with one of the most unique perk sets in a very long time, a weapon by which entire builds can be centered around, and a weapon that's going to be front and center as a meta pick inside master content thanks to the anti-barrier auto rifle mod that's probably going to be sticking around for the next few months until Witch Queen. With today's video, we're going to be talking about the best in slot auto rifle for your Kinetic, the Last Breath. Also, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, share to Pornhub, just YouTube algorithm stuff, as I definitely appreciate it. Thanks, guys. First things first, let's talk about not only how to farm this bad boy out, but also the perks and god rolls that come along with it, so you know exactly what to be on the lookout for when you get it to drop. The Last Breath drops from the hexahedron encounter inside of Prophecy. Now, farming this out is pretty standard stuff. In my experience, I only get armor drops if I try farming an encounter without first completing the dungeon for the week, so make sure that you do that first. Afterwards, load back into the dungeon, get to the cube encounter, have yourself or a buddy grab the checkpoint on another character by wiping, then farm to your heart's content. Now, while farming out this encounter, there's a few perk combinations you should be paying very close attention to. Taking a look at the perks, something should jump out at you right away, and that's the fact that this weapon can roll with both Demolitionist and a damage perk at the same time. 9 times out of 10, you normally have to pick and choose between the two, but not in this case. So when considering what perks you might want to run, in the first column we have Demo for your grenade energy, and Subsistence to feed ammo into the magazine based off your kills. And in the second column we have Frenzy for that 15% damage buff when in combat, and One for All for that 35% buff after tapping 3 enemies. But there's one more perk in the second column that we haven't talked about yet, and that's where my main recommendation for the casual content god roll is going to reside. Osmosis. Demolitionist and Osmosis is a perk combination that goes absolutely ballistic with the Last Breath. Now, I'm no build master inside of Destiny 2 because frankly, the lack of a proper loadout system being built into the game makes crafting builds an absolute nightmare. However, I wanted to put something together to help realize the strengths of this weapon and its perk combination, so forgive me if the build isn't perfect, but it's just an example. Ever since obtaining this role, I've been rocking a Stasis Warlock build that focuses on constant Stasis turret upkeep while also providing consistent boosted weapon damage and good survivability. Starting off with my armor and mods, we're rocking Verity's Brow, which gives me more grenade damage and energy for getting kills with an element that's the same as my subclass. This pairs perfectly with Osmosis, as every time I throw a Stasis turret, my Last Breath is suddenly a Stasis auto rifle. For the mods, we're rocking Dynamo for extra super energy when popping a rift, as well as taking charge to become charged with light when picking up an orb. For my gloves, we have Auto Rifle Loader for the reload speed, Grenade Kickstart to give us grenade energy back when we throw our turret, as well as Elemental Shards to allow stasis crystals to function as elemental wells for our build. For the chest piece, the main important mod here is Elemental Armaments, which states that elemental weapon kills that match your subclass will give you an increased chance to drop elemental wells, which, just like Verity's, synergizes great with Osmosis. On my boots, we spec both ability regen and survivability, as we have both Absolution and Better Already, which will reduce ability cooldowns as well as regen our health when picking up an Orb of Power. We also have Protective Light to synergize with taking charge to allow us to take more damage after our shields break. Lastly, for the class item, we have 2 bomber mods to give us increased grenade energy when popping a rift near enemies, and most importantly, Font of Might, which will give any weapon that matches your subclass element 25% more damage for 10 seconds upon picking up a well. To make this all come together, taking a look at our subclass aspects, we have Bleak Watcher for stasis turrets, Glacial Harvest to allow us to create stasis crystals for our elemental shards, and for the fragments we have Torment for more grenade energy on damage taken, Rime to give us more survivability when getting stasis crystals, Conduction which will make gathering those crystals much easier, and Refraction which will give us more class ability energy when killing a frozen target, which in turn gives us more grenade energy thanks to the bomber mods. Finally, you put all of this together, and the overall payoff is great survivability, constant damage upkeep, and more stasis turrets than you'll know what to do with. Now, this is only one example of what you can do with this weapon roll, and since I'm a huge fan of stasis turrets ever since their implementation, I decided to go with that route. Now, the only problem with this roll and build in general is that it's most effective inside casual content, things like regular raids, dungeons, strikes, all that kind of stuff, which to be honest is why I don't ever create build videos, as most of them just aren't viable for the end game, and that's what I mainly play. However, if the Last Breath was only viable for casual content, I definitely wouldn't be making this video, so let's move on to the Master Content God Roll and its usability this season. Now, that was a very long segment about this weapon in casual content, so you must be thinking, the Master Content God Roll has just got to be crazy, right? Well, no, just use Demo One for All. Thanks for watching. Okay, no, seriously, there's actually more here than meets the eye. Now, as far as perks go, the role that you're going to want to chase for high-end master content is going to be either Demo One for All for that grenade upkeep and 35% damage, or Demo Frenzy for that grenade upkeep and a more consistent 15% damage. With this being a weapon that you're going to use in Grandmasters, range is key to survival, so if you're wanting a 5 out of 5, I suggest also being on the lookout for Hammer 4s as your barrel and armor-piercing rounds for an even further range boost on top of more damage to bury your shields. Ricochet, Light Mag, and High Cal can work too though. Top it off with a ranged masterwork and you're definitely sitting pretty well with this thing. Now, just like with the Osmosis roll we talked about earlier, I want to discuss how you're going to weave this into your regular master content gameplay. Firstly, not to sound like a broken record here, but stasis turrets are absolutely busted in master content. Last season I completed around 100 GM Nightfalls, and I'd like to say over 50% of the time I was running a stasis warlock inside of those GMs. Unlike the casual content build I showed you earlier, I never rock Verity's Brow though, as it's a bit too constrictive on how to get its bonus, so I rather run Eye of Another World instead. Back during last season, I didn't think it could get even better when running turrets, but with this season, it absolutely can. With Last Breath not making me pick and choose between a damage and grenade perk, I have the luxury of dishing out boosted damage numbers, popping anti-barrier shields, and getting my stasis turret back even quicker to help contain adds throughout the Nightfall. Even when not running a stasis turret warlock, you can easily play that support role inside of GMs this season by rocking Last Breath, Divinity, a linear, which in this case Threaded Needle, as well as Well of Radiance. This weapon and subclass setup allows you to cover all three elements, Solar, Arc, and Void, all three champion types, Anti-Barrier, Overload, and Unstop, while also providing healing and champion debuffs to your team via the extra nades that you get via demo on your Last Breath. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this season we have a mod called Withering Heat, which applies a 30% debuff to champions when hit with a solar grenade. This means that your Last Breath can help you get your nade back to not only heal teammates using Divine Protection, but to also apply debuffs to champions more often thanks to Withering Heat. It's absolutely nutty. Again, just like my builds from earlier, these are just examples of how you can utilize the Last Breath in its god rolls this season. And with us getting more master content in the future, with the 30th anniversary dungeon having a master mode, the Witch Queen raid as well, I'd say getting a god roll of the Last Breath for master content wouldn't be that bad of an idea. Now, with all that being said, I want to compare this weapon to other kinetic autos in the game to give you guys an idea of how exactly the Last Breath stacks up to its competitors. Currently, the lineup for kinetic autos is looking something like this. We have Chroma Rush, False Promises, Scathlock, Seraph Carbine, Forward Path, Tiger Spite, and Last Breath. First off, when I evaluate what a good weapon is, I think about its viability in both casual and master content. Like I said earlier, Bungie is doubling down on master content by expanding it from not only strikes, but to raids and even dungeons in a few months as well. Having a weapon that excels at both is only going to get more important as time goes on. With that being said, Chroma Rush, False Promises, and Forward Path are all weapons that feature next to no master content viability, so I'm gonna go ahead and scratch those out. Their perk pools just lean more towards either casual content or PvP focus, so we'll toss them to the side. So first up, taking a look at Tiger Spite, this weapon is in the precision frame archetype of auto, and in my opinion, with it being a hassle to farm while also being in an underperforming archetype, I'm not the biggest fan. Currently, the only time I can be convinced to use a precision frame is usually with something like Shadow Price or Seraph Carbine, which offers something unique. And in Shadow Price's case, it features not only really good perks, but it's also a very niche arc auto rifle. Tiger Spider, on the other hand, doesn't really seem to have anything special compared to other competitors, so I'm just gonna have to pass on this one. Moving on to Scathlock, here we have a weapon that is truly very close to competing with the Last Breath, but it fails so gracefully in its perk selection. Scathlock greatly excels in its overall range stats, something that's damn near essential for great survivability inside GMs. It's why I preach scout rifles being such a good weapon type all the time. Unfortunately though, the only perks that even come close to being good in master content for this thing is Osmosis, and with a well-rounded team, you should never be relying on Osmosis inside of master content anyways, as your team should have the elements covered. If this weapon could roll Overflow Frenzy or Overflow One for All, for example, we'd have a powerhouse of a GM auto rifle, but unfortunately, the perk selection is just too weak to make this thing viable outside of master content. Lastly, we have the biggest competitor to the Last Breath, the Seraph Carbine. With a roll like 4th times or auto-loading paired with Vorpal, you're looking at a strong pick for master content. Throw in the ability to create Warmind cells and we have ourselves a matchup. Now, honestly, it's mainly going to come down to what you prefer when comparing both of these weapons. I personally side with the Last Breath here though, as I much more value my grenade regen compared to cells, especially since the nerf. Not to mention I don't need mods to benefit with Last Breath due to Demo being a regular perk, on top of Last Breath featuring better damage buffs. Frenzy matches Vorpal's 15%, but Vorpal only works on bosses and champs while Frenzy works on everything, and that's not including One for All in this scenario with its 35% increase. So, in conclusion, Last Breath good, farm today. Okay, seriously, that's getting old. Last Breath is an absolute powerhouse of an auto rifle here in Destiny 2. When searching across YouTube, I could barely find any videos whatsoever talking about this thing, and if I did, it was mainly talking about PvP. There was really no video talking about the PvE viability of this thing, so I wanted to take it upon myself today to do that for you all. But guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Before jumping into the comment of the day and everything, I'd just like to apologize for the lack of videos these past few days. Definitely the longest I've gone without uploading in a while, so I really hope that YouTube doesn't decimate my channel as a result. Lately I've just been in a really weird spot mentally, if I'm being honest with you guys, but I think I'm starting to come out of that and kind of get back on the right track. Anyways, while I was gone, a lot of you guys got my previous video to 100,000 views, so I just have to give a massive thank you to every single one of you for that crazy amount of support. I don't think I've ever seen a video perform that well on my channel before ever, so thank you guys so much for going full send on the last upload. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the comment of the day, and today's comment of the day comes from Al, who says, "The presentation and density of your content is what keeps me coming back for more. Thank you for all that you do in allowing even a veteran Density 1 player like myself to learn something new every time. Much love, brother." Now, seriously, man, y'all are starting to make me blush with these nice ass comments, alright? So thank you so much, Al. I really appreciate not only yourself, but everyone that watches my content, whether they find it informative or just want my opinions on things or just plain like supporting the channel. You all are amazing. Now, since I haven't uploaded in a quick minute, let's do a bonus comment of the day. And this one comes from BJ Cooper, and he says, "I had this guy's mom for breakfast, then I got on Density and did some grinding for these god rolls." Yeah, unfortunately, reading the comments sometimes involves friendly fire from your own supporters, but guys, that's gonna do it for me. For next video's comment of the day, make sure to include the word sussy in your comment for a chance to be chosen for next video. With all the sussy stuff going on this season concerning Savathun, I only find it appropriate. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time. Got a big video coming up on the horizon. Stay tuned.